Hi guys, perhaps this is a case of shooting the messenger, but Tom Swarbrick took a lot of flack for this monologue he delivered on his show on Thursday following Keir Starmer's reset speech. Tom says that the speech was boring and lacked any real enthusiasm that the public could get behind. I think the new government is operating under the belief that boring is good, following the crazy years of Brexit, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and to a lesser extent Rishi Sunak, and that the public want to go back to administration that is less scandal-prone. But while the facade is all about stability, if they can't improve people's lives, perhaps as Tom points out, the public will want a Trump-like figure, and we all know who he's talking about.
I'm afraid I emerge from this speech and the so-called reset of Starmer's government more concerned about how this country can actually get better than before this speech. Labour is absolutely right that the country needs change, but the change they're offering? More of the same plodding, slow incrementalism that has seen living standards fall, has seen an economy that barely grows, we can't build anything, everyone's ill, and all the while the power of competitor states like China grows, the tech revolution is happening. And before you start at me, I'm not having a go at Keir Starmer here. He's okay. He's trying, his targets are fine, living standards will go up a bit like they have done for a couple of years, the NHS waiting times will probably come down a bit, but you've heard this all before from people like him before, with the same architecture of the state told to get to it before, and the change that is actually required doesn't happen. Tell me you're not completely disillusioned by the whole thing. Not just Starmer, Labour, Tories, but the whole way in which the state works. Tell me one area of the state that has genuinely improved in the last 20 years. So I listened to Starmer's speech and I thought, this country is about 5 years behind the United States. I really, really think we will have a Trump-style change in the UK. I think people are done with the way in which government has worked for certainly since the financial crash. And I think people are ready for something different. And something different might not necessarily mean better. It actually might not be as democratic. But I'm left so depressed by Starmer's speech here that even if I thought all his plans were the right ones, I've got almost no faith in that they're going to be delivered.
Okay. We have to go back to, as Tom pointed out here, the financial crisis, the financial crash. And then what happened after that? Well, the Tories got into power and they imposed austerity. They ran public services into the ground. They didn't provide them with the funding they needed. And this, in part, resulted in Brexit. And now that Brexit has put a brake on any growth in the UK economy, it's going to be very difficult for Starmer to deliver, to truly deliver. He wants to create jobs. He wants to see growth. He wants to improve public services. That requires money. And money is in short supply. And while Tom is correct where he says, look, you may see some incremental change, maybe some standards of living may increase somewhat, what's required is a dramatic change. But this government doesn't want to, at least at the beginning, doesn't seem to want to do anything dramatic because they're contrasting themselves, I believe, with the previous administrations. The public rejected the Conservatives in part because they were a disaster. Disaster economically, but also they were constantly infighting. So that's, I think, part of the reason why the new administration is taking things slowly. But also their hands are tied, as I said, because of Brexit. It's very difficult now for small businesses to export into the single market, so they're not expanding. They're less likely to take on staff. Big corporations are complaining about the increase in national insurance contributions. Whether that's justified or not is another thing. But in order to keep someone like Nigel Farage at bay, you need to do something dramatic. You need to show stability, show that you're in charge, show that there's no infighting taking place within the Labour Party and the Labour government. And you need to truly deliver. But once again, it's going to be very difficult to deliver because Labour's hands are tied. Following years of austerity, public services ran into the ground, not by mistake, but by design, and the aspect of Brexit. one aspect can be resolved or undone somewhat. You need to inject a huge amount of cash into public services to bring them back up to 2010 levels. But when it comes to Brexit, there's very little you can do. People are talking about rejoining the single market, but as I've said on a number of occasions, it makes more sense to join the European Union first. But that's not going to happen for at least 10 years. So while many people are angry with Tom Swarbrick here for pointing the finger at the government and saying that they're not doing enough and that this will perhaps result in a Trump-style administration in the future with Nigel Farage in charge probably, he's somewhat right. We don't like to hear it, but populism is popular. It's very easy to present simple answers to complex problems. Oh, there isn't enough housing? Well, it's the immigrants' fault. There's an NHS waiting list? Oh, we need to kick the immigrants out. These are the simple solutions to complex problems that Farage is offering, that he did before, and he's succeeding. Because as long as the government is not able to show that they're improving the lives of ordinary people, they'll turn to populists like Farage or like Trump. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.